Well, hello, everybody, and hello, Chad. How was your week this week, Chad? Weeks this week, Chad.
Oh, stressful as always. Stressful as always.
Oh, why would you have anything to be stressed about?
I don't know, and I'm hoping that my period here of getting up and getting going by about 5:30 every morning and still be going at 7, 8, 9, 10, and even 11 o'clock at night, I'm hoping that those are coming to a close real soon. It's not normal for this time of year to be running like that, but I have been. So,
yeah.
I just kind of hope that'll settle down.
Well, I mean, not to get too personal with you, but is it personal stuff? Is it working stuff? Is it a combination of the two?
All the above.
Yeah.
All the above.
Well, I would say ditto.
I need some breathing room somewhere.
Yeah, I would say same thing for me. I don't know if I ever take a time in which I slow down, but it's needed. It's very needed at times. So if anybody's wondering why Chad and I did not do the podcast last week, it was not because we were both running so hard we couldn't do the podcast. It's that Harvey County Talk made a decision to host, or myself to host, Harvey County Sheriff Chad Gay to do a town hall. And I'll just say it, Chad, the experience was unforgettable. I really appreciate our law enforcement, everything our law enforcement does. You know that I'm a big fan of law enforcement, have been on many, many, many occasions on the program. Ultimately, I just look at it as law, order, and justice. So, I mean, I've interviewed Judge Walker before. I've interviewed Judge Lane before. I've interviewed Sheriff Gay twice now, Under Sheriff Sean Chapman, Deputy Hinton with K9 Max. So if it's any question to anybody whatsoever, Harvey County Talk is pro law enforcement, especially pro local law enforcement. So just to get that out of the way for anybody that has any problems with that up front. But we did do a town hall meeting, and it was centered around the budget discussion hearings that are taking place at the Harvey County Commission right now, and that they're asking for a few more deputies. They're asking for a few more things.
Yes.
We also have the detention center that everybody knows is in disrepair. Went in there months ago. Glad to see that other commission candidates are following suit. So however the race turns out, at least everybody's on the same page when it comes to our needs in our community. So I know there was some confusion. I'm just going to throw some of this out there about what bonding meant. When you're talking about public entities, a bond is simply just borrowing the money.
Yep.
You have a certain amount of money that you get from revenue and taxes every year based upon a mill levy coupled with property evaluations, et cetera, et cetera. There's been a lot of those discussions going on here lately. Everybody's doing budget session hearings, and that was one of the things that I know people have a little bit of question about, well, what is a bond? Well, a bond is simply a county or a city, a municipality that then goes and borrows money to do something that they'll pay for over a long period of time, rather than living off of what it is that they're currently taking in.
Those bonds are sold to investors, is what happens.
Yeah.
And when the investor decides to purchase that, what they're doing is they are giving the school district or whatever entity it is money, with the expectation that will be paid back, usually over 20 years, and then there's an interest rate that's set.
Yeah.
And that's how those investors make their money.
Yeah. And a lot of things that people don't understand is also when you're in an economy that's struggling, there is usually better than normal interest rates for public entities.
Correct.
Because where there would not be a sure deal considering a private entity because of the economy fluctuating, a public entity almost 100% of the time is able to pay the debt that they owe. Would you agree with that, Chad?
Yeah, and I'm going to put a point on that one for you. We've within the last few years, we've had a couple of different bond issues for the Newton School District that failed.
Yeah.
And when those things failed, those of us who are paying attention to things, we we have the belief, and some of us have said it publicly, that that's going to end up costing our community a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
And it does, and it does in two ways. The first and foremost, with all due respects to everybody that's been complaining about inflation the last 2 to 3 years, inflation is a constant.
Yeah.
Inflation is an absolute constant. Every year, prices go up on everything. The reason we're complaining is the last couple of years that those increases have been very noticeable.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But some of us remember walking into a McDonald's and ordering a Big Mac meal for about $4.
I remember them days.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We didn't get to $11 for that same meal overnight.
Yeah.
Okay? And we got there over the course of about 40 years. So to do the same project will cost more money 5 years down the road just because of natural inflation.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
The big problem that we've had with wages over the course of the last 40 years, I want to say that again, it's over 40 years.
They haven't kept up.
That inflation has always been higher than wage growth.
Outpaced.
Yes.
Yes.
I make comments now and then about people who who the economy has left them by. Those are the folks I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They're
not making more money, but everything costs more.
They're folks like me who have been working in the same industry, in the same job for 20, 25 years, and I've only had about 3 raises during that time.
So your increase is about 4 or 5%, while inflation might be 11% over that time.
Well, it's much more dramatic than that.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So my wages would have increased maybe 5% over that entire period. But the cost of, pick something. The cost of baseball cards
cost of
has
eggs,
tripled in that time.
bread, milk,
right?
cheese.
That's the deal.
Yes.
Necessity
spending.
Well, there's a reason I pick baseball cards, right? It's like because I don't want to go with one of those hot button things that we've been talking about in our national thing, right?
Good call.
The cost of going to a baseball game in Wichita has quadrupled in that time.
Yeah.
Okay, just the ticket price. All right, it's not $5 anymore; it's 17. Okay, and when I started going to baseball games in Wichita, they were $5, and I was making about 4% less than I am now.
Yeah.
All right, that's a universal thing. So that's how that bond project. Let's just say a new high school. That's one of the reasons that it gets more expensive. Here's the other. When they were floating those bonds, interest rates were low.
Well, yeah.
Okay? So if those interest rates get bumped up, and they have, when those interest rate gets bumped up, that also costs us all a bunch of money.
Yes. Over the long term, for sure.
Okay?
Yes.
You can do that with the jail.
Yeah.
Seriously, we can do that with the jail.
Well, and a lot of people don't understand, and this is MPA 101, and it's that generally speaking, folks, when the economy is down and the economy is you see interest rates rising, this whole thing, okay, that is the best time for, generally speaking, for public entities to search out loans, i.e. bonds, to be able to make improvements, generally speaking, in infrastructure. So if you're going to go and you're looking at it from the perspective of, man, things just keep getting more expensive and everything's getting more expensive, and for me to go get a loan, the interest rate is astronomical, et cetera, that means less people are going out and purchasing things. Okay, that's
right.
How they offset their revenue kickback, if you want to call it that, or the way they make money. Okay, so during those times, that is when it is the most fiscally responsible time, generally speaking, I'll say it again, for a public entity to search out a bond to get a good interest rate to be able to save taxpayer dollars.
It's also why these entities need to see growth.
Yeah.
And I mean actual growth. They need to see construction. They need to see more population. They need to see more jobs. They need to see those things, because that's what's generating their cash inflow.
Yeah.
I hesitate to call it revenue. That's what everybody calls it. But
well, it's taxes to me and you, but when you're talking from the perspective of a management or financial manager of a public entity, taxes are revenue.
Correct. They are.
Yes. Incoming money.
See how I set you up to explain that?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know you know this, but I'm trying to walk through this in a way in which the public can understand.
Exactly. Right.
Because
and
a
the
lot
public
of times
needs to get it.
And I don't think that, and I'm not, I got to be careful with my words, but I think in many in some cases that, and I've learned this already, just trying to explain government budgeting at this point in time to those that would ask when I'm at their door and talking with them, because to you and I, if our property evaluation increases, we still pay more taxes. Therefore, the public entity gets more revenue, even though the mill does not change. Because a mill is a formula that they use to be able to levy taxes against you. That's why we call it a mill levy.
And just so you know, I have always called the mill levy the biggest boondoggle put on Kansas taxpayers there is.
It's a fraction of a percent of a dollar.
Exactly. You know, at the end of the day, when you look at it, here's what a mill is, folks.
Yeah.
Okay? I want you need to understand.
Look in the camera, Chad, and tell them.
Here's what a mill is. It's a percentage.
Yes. 0.1%, technically, I think.
Well, but it's still a percentage.
Yes.
You know, and let's not get, I don't want to get, the reason people don't understand it is when any time a mill levy is described and discussed, everybody gets totally in the weeds.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? A mill is a percentage of your home's assessed value.
Bam.
That's what it is. And the reason that they can get more taxes in and more revenue in with the same mill levy, and the county played this game to a T for decades. Yep. The reason they can do that is growth.
Yes.
And growth in that case means one of two things. Number one, your assessment goes up. That means that even though they're charging you, let's just say,
make round numbers, $100,000.
We're gonna make round numbers. Let's say that this year your house is valued at $100,000, and the percentage, and I'm gonna use big numbers so that you understand where we're going here, and the percentage that you're gonna get hit with is 20%.
Yes.
Well, what's 20% of $100,000? $20,000. Okay.
Oh, you got me there. I was thinking hard on that one.
Okay.
Okay.
And let's just for the giggles say that there's an absolute massive run on real estate. And now all of a sudden you wouldn't sell your house for less than $200,000, and the county says that's what it's worth. So $200,000, and then they come to you and they say, I want that 20%. We charged you 20% last year. We're going to charge you 20% this year. This is the other thing that a number of local governments have played to a T, because they turn around and they say, we're not going to raise your mill levy percent. We're not raising your percent.
Yes, because that's how people equate it.
We're not raising your percent. We're still going to go 20%. Well, your bill is $40,000 this year.
Okay, but I also say this. Public entities do not have control over property assessed values. That's done at the state level. People, the county comes in, the county's coming in and they're saying my property's worth more than what it is. Well,
no, but the county has an appraiser.
Yeah.
Every county's got an appraiser. They follow state statute. And they do have a little bit of state oversight, but it is the county appraiser's office that is appraising the property.
Now, what things cause appraisals to go up, Chad? It's based upon formulas having to do with business, hospitals, housing, parks, amenities, roads.
Resale value. Okay. Resale value is one of them. Improvements. If you make improvements, Guess what? If you make an improvement to your house, what's that do to your resale value? It increases it. Those are the basic things, right? And so, Randy Haig made this comment, was either really early in the year this year or during budgeting last year. When appraisals came in, I think it was last year, when appraisals came in and when you were seeing average increase of 10 and 11 and whatever percent, right? I mean, that's not a small one for residential properties. He said, when your neighbor is selling their house for more than you think it's worth, that's where that's coming from, people. Yeah. He is right. Yeah. Okay? And especially if we're talking about my house, because my house, my neighbor's house, they are twins. So if she decides to move and she sells that thing for a couple times what I think it's worth, guess what?
Your evaluation's going to go up.
That is me, man. I'm going to get the bullseye is on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Same mill levy, but you'll be paying more in taxes.
Correct. And we're kind of, we're going all over the place.
Well, I think we're staying on track. I think that what we're doing is probably explaining it in a way in which people can understand it.
And so one of the things that is going to happen during this budget season, and everybody's going to do it. I'm not pointing a finger at anybody because everybody's going to do it. They're going to keep talking about mill levy. Mm-hmm. Mill levy, mill levy, mill levy, mill levy, mill levy. The other thing they're going to talk about is revenue neutral rate.
Yeah.
Okay? I hate the revenue neutral rate because we just spent how many minutes talking about the mill levy and the confusingness of the mill levy?
Yes.
Which is, it shouldn't be confusing. Yeah. It's a percentage.
Yes.
Okay, that's what it is.
But to look, yes, keep going, okay? Chad. I'm with you.
So now we've brought in, about 3 years ago, they've brought in, the legislature brought the revenue neutral rate.
Yes.
Well, once again, we're injecting a whole bunch of confusion into things for people. Okay?
Well, in an attempt for people to understand better where their taxes are going, because
Correct.
If you're talking about a revenue neutral rate, what you're saying is we're going to confuse people.
If
right?
you want to know where your taxes are going, there is no substitute for cracking open the budget.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then you show up
Absolutely
to budget meeting and see how many
no
people show up.
substitute for cracking it open and looking at it.
Yeah.
You have a copy of the county budget. Mm-hmm. I watched them hand it to you.
It's like 300 pages.
I have a copy of the proposed county budget.
Correct.
That is by no means final. I think Anthony said it pretty well that this is all null and void within 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just a starting place.
Yeah.
But if you want to know, crack open the budget. Now, revenue neutral rate. Again, this is something that is really easy to understand, but is still confusing, right? So what the revenue neutral rate is if the governmental agency wants to observe the, quote, revenue neutral rate, end quote, it means they have to spend the same amount of money,
tangible dollars,
this year that they spent last year.
Which means
down to the penny.
Yes, which means that if you have a property valuation increase, that the money in which the county has to operate on, if they would stay the same as they did the previous year, then ultimately that would mean that your mill levy would go down in conjunction with the amount of money that is proportionate to the property valuation increase that you're paying in taxes, which they look at as revenue.
However, your tax bill won't go down.
That's right. That's right. That's right. But it won't go up
without actual growth in the community.
Yeah.
Your tax bill would not go down in the situation that you just gave.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. Your tax bill will go down if there's enough new property.
Yes.
Coming onto the rolls. See how this is how this all gets confused.
And that is all called economic development.
Right. And and in order for a entity, and you can pick one, don't care who they are, in order for an entity to spend more money, or in the words of some, violate the revenue neutral rate. I cannot stand that term.
Well, terminology is everything.
In order for them to spend more money this year than they did last year, they have to hold a public hearing and they have to print a notice of said public hearing.
Yes.
And the county clerk sends out letters detailing every public hearing in the county and when they are, and that the agency is intending to spend more money next year than they spent last year.
So let's talk confusion. Okay. There seems to be, and it might just be social media because everybody's got a phone in their hand today and has access to the greater world. But it seems like you don't have enough time in the day to dispel the misinformation that's provided by people through uneducation. And no offense to anybody here, okay, but somebody will throw something out there. I don't know why the city of Newton spent all that money on the Main Street. They didn't need to spend all that money on Main Street. Well, Chad,
they didn't spend all that money.
But here's the thing. So as soon as you tell one, then you're going to the next and the next and the next. And it's like, how are we missing out on this loop here? I don't understand. And so then,
well,
it comes
quite
back
honestly,
to,
they're not accessing local media because we explain all this stuff all the time.
Well, but that goes back to the fact that I mean, there's a real fine line between saying something that would offend somebody, because of course I've done it. I've done it. I made a comment a while back about how it's very difficult when people show up to meetings and want to speak at the public comments time and they don't have all the information. They don't want all the information. They haven't spent the time to get all the information. And then they're going to believe what they believe. It's like you could tell somebody, hey, the city didn't pay for Main Street to be paved. And they'll say, well, yeah, they did.
They paid a portion.
But then all tax dollars are our tax dollars, and then you get into the weeds with this,
yeah. And then we got to go into the bathtub principle and all that.
And it's
I hear what you're.
I mean, Chad, we've said it over and over and over again. Subscribe to the Kansan. It's $5 for an online subscription. That's 12 papers for a month. Subscribe. For instance, okay. And it's like nails on a chalkboard to me. It really, really is. And I try to be nice. I want to be nice, but I also want to speak frank. I was sitting at a commission meeting just this last week, and one of the commissioners, watch the meeting, you'll find out whom, so that way I'm not ousting anybody. But one of the commissioners asked this county administrator, that they had been confronted or questioned or sent an email or something from a constituent. And the constituent, which is, i.e., a citizen, you, me, tax-paying citizen, voter, whatever the case may be.
Point of order.
Yes.
Resident.
The
only citizenship anyone has is to the United States of America. You do not have a citizenship to the city of Newton. You do not have citizenship to Harvey County. You do not have citizenship to Kansas.
I'll take it.
You have citizenship to the United States of America.
Play on words, Chad. Play on words. Dang.
That right there that is a pet peeve that's about 30 years old.
Okay, I will try to say if you are a resident, a constituent. I should have just stuck at a constituent, but I was trying to use another word for those that didn't understand what.
Not to totally derail you, but to totally derail you.
I'm with you. That's why we're here. I love you, Chad. You know that I love you. This is awesome. Okay, so I'll take a point of order and say, okay, so you're a resident. Okay, a resident, a voting member, possibly of that individual's district, however you want to look at a constituent. Had contacted them and wanted to know if there was any way that the county could post all public postings that they did or
legal notices
to the website. Therefore, they would not have to subscribe to a paper because they don't have money, the $5 that would take to subscribe to the Kansan. I understand it. Tough times. It's tough times. Okay. So then the county administrator had to inform the county commissioner that they already do that. Yeah. And I want to let that hang out there. They already do that. Well, I knew they already did that. I'm sure there were lots of people that already knew they did that. And I just thought to myself, what is true representation? I mean, if you really want to be able to aid people in what you're doing here, I would have easily been able to say to somebody that I'm standing on their doorstep, right in front of them, talking to them, anybody that wants to ask me, hey, could they just public post that so I don't have to buy a paper? And I just tell them, well, they already do. In fact, here, let's do this real quick. Go to your phone, look up Harvey County Commission, click on this, click on that, click on that. There you go.
Document Center. Yeah. So,
but we need to make it easier, Chad.
I'm gonna use that to segue into something else. Let's talk legal notices for just a second.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's two things about legal notices that I think are just amazing. So you've got somebody that has approached the commission because they can't find it on their website. Now you've got the city of Wichita that has decided that they're not going to, as a primary source, publish legal notices in a newspaper. They're just going to publish it on their website.
But then this goes back to consumption of information.
They're doing that with the full blessing of the legislature.
This comes back to consumption of information.
There's been a war on public notices in newspapers for the better part of 30 years. You want to know why we fight that war? You just described it. We don't want and we don't believe that the government should have entire control over every bit of their information.
Well, no, that's what a free press is for.
Period.
Because let's not say anything nefarious now, but let's just say.
And here's how that comes up for Harvey County. It's so beautiful that this happened this week. I'm laughing. This is this is a story that I wrote and I put and honestly, I mean, I think you heard him. I know Anthony over at the county really didn't think that this was story worthy. And I have a lot of respect for Anthony. But you know who did think it was story worthy? Don Schrader, a commissioner. He said so during the meeting. Okay? So, we've got competing interests right there in the administration of Harvey County. All right? Here's the deal. During the meeting on Tuesday, it was brought up that Harvey County had received about 5 delinquent tax notices. And it was all on properties that have either been constructed or purchased within the last 18 months. Every single one of those properties they have applied for an exemption for. Now, governmental agencies, and I'm not saying this is exactly what happened in our county, because Harvey County is not the only governmental agency that received these notices.
Correct.
Have an assumption that anything that they do is going to be tax exempt. And they're right, it's going to be. But you've got to do the paperwork to make that happen.
There's got to be a check and balance.
Okay? The concern that was brought by the commission and to the commission was that deadline for the legal notice of delinquent property taxes is August 1st. And then after that deadline, that list will be put together in a legal notice form, and it will be brought to the official city, county newspaper, and we, as the Newton Kansan, will publish it.
So you'll have to publish that there's 5 delinquent tax properties currently on the books.
I'm not done with this story yet, but yes.
And I'm following you.
So there's the possibility at that meeting on Tuesday, there was the possibility that Harvey County would appear in that 5 times. The city of Sedgwick was going to appear in it. Heston via USD 460 was going to appear in it. And I don't remember the other one. Oh, North Newton was going to appear in it. Okay? Obviously, I did not leave things drop at the meeting. I started asking questions. There were more than 770 delinquent tax notices mailed. All right? 770. That's a lot. Mm-hmm. And as I was questioning that, and I was questioning, well, are there other agencies? What about churches? You know, what other groups might be falling into this whole paperwork snafu, if that's what you want to call it?
Supposed to be exempt, but they're not classified
to where
as
they
exemption.
haven't heard back from the state yet, even though they've applied. And our county treasurer offered to print me a copy of every one of those 770 letters. My response, and I have it on a digital recording if anybody ever wants to hear it. My response was, no, I don't think so. I don't think you and I are going to spend taxpayer dollars that way.
Yeah.
Okay? So folks, even me, I'm asking, is this a responsible way to spend taxpayer dollars?
Yeah. No.
And no, it wasn't. Now, if she could have exported that list into email form, you know, it's like a 4-minute, 5-minute thing, and then there's no paper, there's no printing, there's no nothing, I would have done that.
Yeah.
But that just wasn't available to us. Yeah. So I said no. She also did not let things drop. Okay? As I was walking out of her office, she said, I'll see what I can do to generate a list of the municipalities. And I said, do not make that a priority. I can write things in such a way that naming all of them is not necessarily important.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
We're going to give the 10,000.
The important the important nugget as I bring this out is that Harvey County's not alone.
Yeah.
Okay, and they're just waiting on some blasted paperwork. But you still have to send those notices. And she told me why she had to send those notices. So you still have to send the notices, and you still have to go through all of this. But she didn't let it drop either. Okay, and I know we're in campaign season, and I know she's on the ballot for the primary. Okay? And I'm not saying any of this because it's campaign season and she's on the ballot for the primary. She did what I would expect any person in those shoes to do. She just didn't let it drop.
Yeah.
She emailed me the list. And I don't know if she went through all 700 letters on her own to do that. I don't know how she searched through those things. I'm assuming she did keyword searches, but I do not know. It's not important to me, but I made a request that I actually rescinded, but she fulfilled it. And I could have gone through the process of writing up a letter and doing all of that. I didn't do that. I rarely have to around here.
Yeah. Yeah, we've covered this in the past. You just go ask, and they usually are going to give it to you.
So I got the answer to that question. And then later in the day, I got another email. And it said, I found an attorney general's decision from, and I forget what year it was. I just be really honest, it's in the story. And that under that, there is no requirement, and it is actually discouraged that the organizations that are pending a decision from the Board of Tax Appeals not be published in the legal notice.
Yeah, because I agree. Yeah.
Now, we charge very, very, very little for legal notices. So how much money did I save the taxpayers of Harvey County there? Maybe about $2. I saved them that. I'm not going to say I saved anybody any embarrassment because all those entities are getting out there now.
That's the thing.
Okay.
But see, and I got a question on that.
But I also explain the situation that they're in. It's not that they just chose not to pay the taxes.
Yeah.
They're probably not going to have to.
Yes.
And if for every one of those entities, if they turn around and cut a check to the county treasurer's office now, in order to avoid being caught up in this whole
that's
thing,
what I was getting
right?
ready to say.
If they want to do that, they can do that.
Yeah.
And then when that decision comes down from the Board of Tax Appeals, they will get a refund.
Now, here's my question.
But let me ask you this. How much time and energy are we wasting by cutting that check and then going back and doing refunds?
Well, and
it may not seem like a lot, but seriously, let's just get through it.
And I'll say this, and I would disagree. I mean, I understand your point. I completely understand your point. It's almost trivial in nature to say that we would need to go through the process of cutting a check to pay and then get a reimbursement at a later point in time when the exempt status comes through. But public opinion matters. And for a populace that we are dealing with that is got their eye on the ball and they want to understand why it is that this is happening or that's happening. I mean, there's no end to the person that's going to say, well, the county's not paying their taxes. They're delinquent. Now, I mean, just
they're
be real.
Not supposed to pay taxes.
But you see what I'm saying, okay? You know? but let's not.
I
it
see
goes
what
back
you're
to what we were saying
but
before,
at the
and
end of the day,
nice. I'm being nice here, but to me, just to ensure that the optics that could be misconstrued or miscommunicated by those residents who are getting the same notice saying that they have to pay theirs, cut the check, you're not delinquent, get a reimbursement when the time comes. Yes, I realize there probably is some tangible dollars there in the way of the time it takes to cut the check versus this, but they cut checks all day long, every day, Chad, for vehicles, for this, for that.
And
that's part of their deal.
And every one of them costs money.
How much money, Chad?
It doesn't matter.
Come on now.
It doesn't matter.
Now, okay, is $5 or $10 worth?
I mean, straight up.
The optics?
Well, but here's the deal. Seriously. When I say it doesn't matter how much it costs, every human being that's banking today, there's a really, really good chance that writing a check is the most expensive way of handling your money.
I don't disagree.
Okay? And so why write a check for something you don't owe in the first place? Because at the end of the day, they're not going to owe this.
I've done it. I have done it. I have written a check for something that I knew I was going to get a reimbursement for. I did it. I did it because I didn't want for there to be any problem with not writing it. And then, of course, it's not being published, right?
So, but back in the day, before everybody had online banking, I got a bill from a credit card company for 67 cents. 67 cents, really? I called the credit card company and I said, listen, I don't want to get hit with $20 worth of late fees over 69 cents. Okay? I also do not want to write a check for 69 cents because by the time I've written the check and I've put that check in an envelope and I've stuck a stamp on it and then you have received it and you have opened it and then you've gone through the process of depository and you've done the process of logging, all of us will have spent well more than 69 cents.
Yeah. Well, obviously.
You know what the credit card company did?
I'm guessing they probably just squashed it.
They wiped the 69 cents off the bill.
Yeah.
They're like...
Makes sense.
It makes sense.
Yeah, but what would have happened if you wouldn't have called them? Then you would have wound up getting the whole thing. I mean, then think about the amount of time it took for you to be on the phone and how much an hour you worked. Come on, let's get into the weeds, Chad.
Well, I know.
You just cost yourself more money than it would have been just to write a check.
No, I used my mom and dad's phone, so it was just a little bit
back in the day when
it was a little bit of time.
That was before cell phones.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, man. We're talking back in the day, right?
When we used to have to pay for calling anywhere outside of your area code.
Well, we're talking about back in that time period where you sit there and go, how in the world did we ever survive? Right?
Yeah.
How did we survive? The monkey bars were over concrete.
Yeah.
You know, my car seat was my mom's arm. Boom.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, how did we ever survive?
I mean, the one that I think
helmet
is
while riding a bike. What?
Not even possible. Nobody did that. I'll tell you another thing that I think is always interesting is the phone situation, right? Well, what would you do if you broke down on the side of the highway and you couldn't call anybody?
You walked.
You just walk, and chances are somebody would see you, oh, there's their car broken down back there, and oh, this must be the person that broke down, and they're going in the same direction I'm going, so I'll stop and pick them up and take them to where they can get to a phone, or maybe drive them home.
When I wrecked one of my favorite cars, I stuck it on a ditch on its top. After I had asserted that everyone was okay, I walked across the road to the farm. I happened to know the farmer, walked into the milk house and picked up a phone and called. I mean, we survived.
Yeah, but and you know what? If you told somebody that you used to do that today, you might invoke some kind of fear in them where they think,
well,
oh my
God,
God.
I knew the farmer.
Well, but what if I was just walking down the road and somebody stopped to pick me up? Doesn't that mean they're going to take me and kidnap me and kill me? I mean, doesn't that happen all the time, Chad?
So, I mean, we're straying.
I know we're straying.
But
it's about perception. There was
a Facebook post that popped up on my feed probably about a week ago. And it was about how back in the 70s, back in the 80s, that's when I grew up. I'm old. To some people, I'm still young. I feel old. But back then, we used to play outside all the time.
Same with me.
You know, baseball at the park was
wiffle ball, baseball.
That was the deal, man. You know, and that's what we went to the park, man. We played on the same blasted diamond that we played our little league games on. But that did change for us. And I don't remember the exact day. I looked up the date and the year, and it changed with Johnny Gosh. There's a name for you to Google. Okay? And people got scared. It's what happens. So, yes, a lot of that stuff changed. Yeah. But still, you know, I'm a high school sophomore driving myself and a friend home from work on a 100-degree day. Car just dies right at the end of the 4-lane on Highway 1. We had no cell phones. Some things hadn't even been invented yet.
Yeah.
What are you supposed to do? I mean, I walked across the road, knocked on a door, and said, my car just died. I need to call somebody.
Yeah.
Okay. The person who answered the door was a pretty cute blonde about my age. I didn't bother with anything because I was just off of work, man. That's not the time to try and impress anybody. You know? But that's the way things operated.
Yeah.
We have we've let go of both the bad and the good of the way things used to operate. We've just let it all go.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you know, I'll say this. If somebody came up to my door today and said, hey, I need to use a phone, I wouldn't let them in my house because, well, who doesn't have a cell phone first? Second, I can give you the cell phone and you can talk to it out there or whatever the case may be.
Right.
And you know, there's that. So even I'm not being overly critical of the knowledge that we do live in different times, because what happens in a society as they digress.
Well, you know what else was part of my life during that time? There were no legal fireworks.
No legal fireworks. Oh, we're going to talk about
sprinklers and
fireworks.
Snakes, man.
Yes.
That's what we had.
Yes. Where you say you're wanting to go into the fireworks discussion now, huh?
Yeah, I think we should because it's timely.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, as we are filming this right now, fireworks stands are opening in Newton.
Yeah.
They're going to be open through the 4th of July. Now, the city commission, again, and it pains me to use this attitude, and it pains me to say this, but the city commission, again, has injected confusion into fireworks season.
What, the you can buy them but you can't pop them off thing?
Yes. I don't even remember which days you can do it. And I've written and written and rewritten and rewritten over and over and over again all those. So the bottom line is that if you're going to partake this season, make sure that you understand what the city has decided to do. Okay? Now, I know you can use them on the 3rd and the 4th of July. And I also have seen a lot of complaining online that they're stopping everything so early.
On the 4th.
Yeah, 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, can we be real for just a second? This is one of the most unenforceable laws and rules that the city commission puts together. It is completely unenforceable.
Because if people are going to pop the fireworks off till midnight, chances are...
There are some really common sense things that they can do to try and control how late people but it's not saying you have to be done by 10 o'clock on July 4th.
There's also this too, and this was just the first thing that popped into my head, is that is an effort to control it, because if you put the deadline at 10 and you think that, well, there's a possibility people will go longer than that, at least even if they go longer, we're looking at like midnight instead of 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
Just to think, I mean, I don't know. I didn't talk with anybody. Nobody gave me their say on that or anything. I didn't know that was part of a discussion or anything.
I have only ever used the public comment section of the city commission meeting one time in my life. And it was right after my daughter was born. And it was about fireworks. And I proposed what I thought was some pretty good common sense ideas. The commission decided to use one of those common sense ideas for 1 year and then never again.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, that common sense idea did work, and it did accomplish what it was designed to accomplish. So I don't know why we've gone totally away from it and absolutely refused to discuss it. And straight up, I had the operators of fireworks stands thanking me for the change that I got made.
Oh, I've been a volunteer. I've been a volunteer on some of them fireworks stands for days and days.
Think about that.
And days.
That's who was thanking me.
Yeah.
And what I was suggesting, I mean, I don't want to go on, but what I suggested was that on the last day of allowed fireworks discharge, which every year is the 4th of July, that the stands close 2 hours before the city wants us to quit lighting them off.
Yeah.
It just makes no sense to me, none, that you can walk in there and walk in there, buy something, and when you walk out, you're not supposed to use it.
Yeah.
If it makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
I can understand what you're saying.
How does that make any sense at all?
Yeah. Well, because I think why, and I'm not speaking in, for anybody or anything. I'm just surmising this. I'm just surmising, not an assumption, but surmising this, that they're looking at it as a difference between sales and doing the actual lighting them off.
Yeah.
So, if you're looking at revenue, you're trying to...
there is absolutely no reason to allow for sales right up to the last minute of discharge. None.
Did you put that in a public comment section on Facebook, Chad?
No.
Oh, I was going to say.
I'm just telling you, there is no reason.
I was going to say, I thought I seen somebody say that, but it wasn't Chad Frey. It was Babaloo Baloobaloo.
Who knows? Because what you are doing is you're allowing somebody, I mean, they can walk in there at 9:45. July 4th this year, it's 10 o'clock. That's the rule. which is unenforceable, but that's the rule. So, I can walk down to the one that's on the corner. It's 3 blocks from my house. Get there at 9:45, do a little shopping, check out at 9:59 because they're still open, and walk home with them. And technically not be allowed to light them. You know what else I'm not allowed to do because it's in the fire code?
Keep them in your house, possess them.
Store them.
Yeah.
So now I can't use them and I can't store them. How does that make sense?
Oh, Chad, you're on a pet peeve right now. I can tell.
I am.
I can tell.
I am.
Well, I'll say this.
You can't sell booze to a 20-year-old. You just can't. Because they can't use it. They can't possess it. But here we are with fireworks. Yeah, we can sell it. We can sell it to you. You can't use it. You can't possess it. How does that make sense?
It's not about whether you can use or possess. It's about whether you can buy them. And if you can buy them, then you can buy them. But that doesn't mean that it's their responsibility to ensure that you don't light them or store them.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
I've also thought for a long time that every fireworks stand in town should be required to post the hours that the city has set for discharge. At one time, I thought, I was like, they need to put stuffers in every bag. But I've backed away from that. Now it's just they need to have those up for people to see when they're walking in.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder how many people know.
So it's like
it goes back to that.
I think it's don't quote me on it. And the service here is so awful. I can't look it up with what I wrote. But it's like Friday and Saturday. You can light, and then again on the 3rd and the 4th, and it's always 10 to 10.
Yeah,
and I know people are upset with the quote early ending, but for those of us that have to be up at 5:30 in the morning,
yeah,
that's not early.
Well, it's better than just doing it the day of. I mean, there's some even argue that it needs to be day of. I think I don't know. This was a rumor. I saw it on Facebook. Could be true. Could not be true. But North Newton, I think, is only doing just the day of. Is that right?
They usually only do the day of.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And at one time, there was a county department, and I'm not in a finger pointing mode, but there was a county department that compiled all of that for everyone, and they did not do that this year, and that's fine. But yes, North Newton is usually just one day. Our county parks, they're banned.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I made a comment to my son. It was on Sunday when we went to check water levels out at East Lake, and they are improving. They got a long way to go. That if ever the 4th of July hits on a Saturday or a Friday, I think I'm going camping. Just because you're not supposed to be. It's posted, no fireworks, at every entrance of the park.
Well,
all year long.
I think, because I know that you're passionate about this, that what you should do, this is probably the best thing you could do, is you need to go start another Facebook account under a different name.
No.
Okay. And you need to just, so that way people won't know it's you, or anything like that. And then you could get on the city commission Facebook page, or what's happening, hoop to hoop here, or here's what's really, or who's here, all the happenings. And just post the heck out of it, Chad.
Dude,
post the heck out of it. People will believe it. I mean, just
my
post
opinion.
it.
If I'm willing to share my opinion, I'm willing to put my real name on it.
Oh, are you? Okay, that's interesting because I don't think that's the norm anymore.
Yeah, well,
only if you want to be honest.
It is what it is.
And accountable for your own behavior.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the other thing, the fireworks.
I think it's great. I'm going to make a few, 3, 4 of them. I mean, Facebook lets you do it. I might as well have some that way. I
There's a pen name that's easy and it comes to mind right away.
Do it.
And it's been used by somebody.
Well, you can do more
So,
than that.
you know.
There's more than one Lance Gormley too.
So yeah.
There's more than one Chad Frey.
There's 7 Chad Freys in the United States
there
today.
You go. Hey, what you need to do is get something original.
There's a school teacher, there's a race car driver. I lost track of the high school basketball player in Ohio, but he had a couple good seasons.
Yeah.
There's 7 of us.
Yeah.
But there's another fireworks thing that came up this week.
I'm going to be Chad Frey.
No.
I'm going to duplicate all of your stuff. I'm going to take your picture. I'm going to download your picture.
There are
I'm
7 Chad Freys, but there's only one me.
Well, but who'd know? I could get on there, lock everything down so nobody could see exactly that it wasn't actually you. Duplicate your account, which you see most people saying that somebody had hijacked their account.
Yeah.
But that's not what happened. Somebody just took all your public stuff.
They
duplicated your account, and then they want to go on and act as you, and people are like, oh, that's Chad. And then you could just say, I could just really let it air out on like the Newton City Commission page, and everybody be like, oh, Chad Frey.
By the way, my password is 16 characters.
They don't have to have. I don't need
alphanumeric.
I could if you see a duplicate Chad Frey account running around, the password is Chad.Frey.
No.
Just know it.
Nice
and
try.
Then you can log into it, and you can have fun on Chad's name too.
I'm just telling you.
I might be able to sell that.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
So, but there was another fireworks issue that popped up on social media this week, and it's the fact that the city of Newton does not have a fireworks show any longer.
Yeah, we haven't for years. Well, different entities do.
Well,
I know there's a fireworks show at Kidron Bethel.
As I was looking at it, it's a couple of things that came to mind for me. And one of the things that came to mind is, folks, we need to put blame where the blame is due. The city never had a fireworks show. The city of Newton, I'm talking about those folks down at City Hall, they never operated a fireworks show.
I don't think they've ever spent money on that.
They have.
Have they? Then reimbursements or maybe adding to it.
They did fund a fireworks show.
Okay.
They did not operate it themselves.
Okay.
There used to be a fireworks show that closed off the Chisholm Trail Festival. When the Chisholm Trail Festival went away, the fireworks show went away. Okay? And yes, I'm going to address some of this stuff, right? Yes, the funding came from the fees that are charged to fireworks stands. By the way, there are fewer of those now in town than there were then. Those fees now, I think, they don't go to a fireworks show. I would have to double check to make sure that I'm right about where they go, but they do not go to a fireworks show. If you want public fireworks, go to Kidron Bethel in North Newton. Go to Peabody. Peabody's got a great show. Get there really early so that you can get down on the football field and see the ground show.
Yeah.
Okay? But it's a great show. We can debate all day long as to whether the city of Newton should bring something back or whether we should be doing something. But at the end of the day, right now, man, there's so much stuff being lit in our town on the 4th of July. Why in the world do you think you got to go to the park for something?
You can just go out to Centennial and watch it.
Just sit on your own front porch. I'm sure you'll see something.
Yeah, which we are one of, a dwindling amount of communities that allow for projectiles that go above so many feet and everything else. But we're coming to the end of the program, Chad. So I want to do this. My last word is go to Harvey County Talk YouTube page, go to Harvey County Talk Facebook page. Take the time to watch the town hall with Harvey County Sheriff Chad Gay. It was very informative. We'll get better as we do it, but I think there is a true interest in people wanting to know more about certain things that are going on in the community. Town halls used to be way more prevalent than they are today. When we became the digital age, it should have been an easy conversion to be able to have a town hall videotaped and then projected for the greater public. And we're going to try to do that when we can. Just when we can. So go look it up. go see it. We have a wonderful sheriff. Chad's a wonderful guy. I'm sending a shout out to all law enforcement, all first responders in our community. We appreciate you. And to those that are in the community, take the time to love up on your local law enforcement. Take the time to love up on your local fire and EMS. And I mean that genuinely. They got a tough job, especially law enforcement who has to deal with people at their worst. And that's what they do most of the time every day. So love up on your law enforcement, especially local law enforcement. Chad, you got the chance to speak directly to the hearts and the minds of anybody listening and give us the last word. What do you got, my man?
I started on my election coverage already. I've sent out candidate questionnaires for everybody that's in the Republican primary as a contested candidate. I have received all of those back except one. I'm not going to identify who that one is, but I've received them all back. I'm very happy about that. So you can look for that. It's coming.
That would be me. All right, everybody. All right. Thanks for listening to this program, and we'll catch you next week, everybody.